All right. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Alan family, I hope you are doing all well. We're just going to wait for my partner in Hasanat and my colleague Mufti Na'man to join us. Folks, today is the last and final part of our Planet Omar series. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa
Rise and
alaikum
shine,
assalam.
Mufti
Wa
Saab.
alaikum assalam. How you doing? How you doing, Sheikh? You ready for this planet Omar, man? I've been excited all week.
Oh, man.
I tell
Subhanallah.
you,
Yeah,
I
I've
tell you,
been.
all week this has been the highlight of my week. I've just been waiting for Planet Omar.
Yeah. Highlighted your week, huh?
It
All
was the
right. All
main
right.
thing. I this remember we were talking about it yesterday. We can't wait
Yeah.
for it.
So for our viewers, for everyone who's watching, go ahead and take the time right now to whether it's airplay or whether you cast it, whatever you do, throw story time on the big screen so the rest of the kids in the family can enjoy. Today we are going to be having our grand finale, part 4 of Planet Omar, and in the meanwhile, for those of you who are watching at home, if you would, I have put in a link in the comment section where you can share with us pictures of your family enjoying story time. We're going to share some picture submissions that we had come in from last week, inshallah. So, Mufti Saab, shall we go ahead and get started since we got a recap?
Absolutely. I think let's get everybody up to speed while our viewership and our audience joins in. And let's just get this started, man. I like your shirt, by the way, Sheikh G. I
Yeah, midlife crisis. Yeah,
Hey,
midlife crisis loading. All right. So let's see. Let's get this started. Let's get the background done. And we are going to do the. Huh? You echoing? You saying something?
No, I was on mute.
Okay. Planet Omar recap, and we're gonna go ahead and start it with that. All right. So since we always bring in the Islamic lessons and morals and nature in our story time, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي امري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. We are going to go over the ultimate recap, okay? So I'm going to try to keep this in like 4 minutes. Ready? On your marks, get set, go. So, for those of you who are joining us for the first time, Planet Omar, the characters are obviously Omar, okay? He has a huge imagination. He has this dragon that he brings into the story to help him whenever he's nervous. He hates carrots and loves chocolates. Then you have his little brother Isa. Isa's the little annoying brother that screams and cries louder than an ambulance siren. We have the 13-year-old annoying older sister, okay, that constantly snitches on Omar and gets him in trouble and loves to tease Omar. Then we have Mommy the scientist, who is always hooked to a cup of coffee. Then we have Daddy the scientist with the beard going on. He's a genius. He loves motorcycles, but grandma won't let him ride one. Then you have the imaginary dragon who swoops in to save the day. Then we have Mrs. Rogers, the old, weird, angry neighbor, right? Who always calls her son John, oh, these Muslims are frying smelly onions again. These Muslims are being noisy again. Oh, that a little bit of that changed, but we're going to talk about that in the recap. Then we have Daniel the bully, right? Then we have Charlie. Charlie is Omar's best friend. He has the thick glasses, the freckles, and everything he answers is, what is it, Mufti? Okay. It's okay. Everything is okay. It's not bad. It's not good. It's not great. It's okay. Then we have Mrs. Hutchinson, the school teacher whose hair reflects her mood. And as far as the story is concerned, well, Omar's mom lands a new job. They go to a new city. Then that means new friends, new school, new home. In the beginning, Omar and the brother and sister, they take a box of chocolates to Mrs. Rogers, the old grumpy neighbor, okay? And initially, she just stares at it and she's like, oh, okay, whatever, right? The second time they sent over biryani, they say, Mufti Nawan, that when all else fails, send in a plate of biryani. But that didn't work as
Right.
well. And she looked at the biryani. She's like, well, since she's British, is this spicy? Ew, no, thank you. And shut the door, right? Now we have a bad neighbor next door. School doesn't turn out to be the greatest experience for Omar as well. There's this guy called Daniel, right? And he doesn't like Omar or Charlie.
Daniel.
He's bad Daniel, man. He keeps on going up to them and be like, "Oh, how nice, you two." And then he bullies them during recess, and he also, puts dirt in his sandwich. But we're gonna talk about all of that, right? Once Daniel was going by and he shoved Omar and messed up his painting, and then Omar decided to go the Picasso route. The teacher got very, very happy, and then Daniel got even more upset. Now, while all this was going on, Charlie and Omar, they're playing at home. They're having pizza. The parents are being extra, extra cheesy and nice with what's his face? What's this guy's name? Charlie, right? And then the next door old lady, she is being grumpy again. They're playing soccer and she's complaining. And then at school, Daniel throws sand in Omar's sandwich. And Omar says, "Wow, you put the sand in my sandwich." Everyone starts laughing. Daniel gets really upset. He charges at Omar. Omar moves away. Daniel ends up slamming his face on the chair, and then he gets in big fat trouble with the principal, right? And then Daniel starts calling, his mom names and stuff. So Daniel, he needs to be disciplined, right? Now, while all this was going on, right, there was a situation at home. Just to give you an idea, Mariam rats Omar out because Omar took the batteries from the TV remote for his gaming console. They go out of town to visit their cousin Reza in Manchester. Isa pees his pants in the car. And now, when they come back, remember the old grumpy lady, Mrs. Rogers? Well, one day an ambulance shows up next door, and the family goes like, "Hey, what's going on?"
Why did the ambulance show up, Sheikh?
Well, I didn't really see the report, but there was something that happened that needed an ambulance. So Omar's mom, she holds Mrs. Rogers' hand. She goes all the way in the hospital, and then that act of kindness changes Mrs. Rogers' attitude, and she goes from, "Oh, these stinky Muslims," to, "Hey, my lovely neighbors help me, John. They're such good people." So, or shall I do the British version of the old lady? No, we'll leave it right now. All right. Then later on in the story, Ramadan comes around. Omar's teacher lets Omar know that, "Hey, if you ever need to be excused from PE since you're fasting, we'll be more than happy to do that." And then Daniel's like, "Teacher's pet," right? So Daniel's getting all messed up inside, and Omar's getting all this nice treatment. Now, in the meanwhile, Mrs. Rogers, who is a friend of the Omar's family, guess what? She shows up for iftar. Mufti Noman, not one day, every day.
2 days, 3 days, every day, huh?
He comes every
Those
single day.
samosas must have been it, man. Those samosas must have been hitting the spot.
In the beginning it was okay, but then Omar started getting worried about his samosas, right?
Yeah.
And then Omar also steps up and he decides to fast, okay? But as Omar was fasting, his tummy started to rumble. And Omar went to the grocery store with his dad, and he saw the waffles and the chocolate croissants and the cakes. And then Omar starts to feel the rosa. And guess what? Omar gets a fatwa. And then he eats a chocolate croissant because kids do not really have to fast. So he decided, you know what? Let me get this croissant and make up for my fast sometime later in life. Omar answers a question about genes in class, since his parents are scientists. And no, we're not talking about genes that you wear. We're talking about genes that design your genetic makeup. And then Daniel gives him a rotten look. And then, as all this was going on, Science Day field trip to the Science Museum. Omar is so worried about getting paired with his class bully. And then guess what? Doo-doo, 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 doo-doo. Omar gets paired with Daniel. Oh my God. And not with Mrs. Hutchinson, with some random parent chaperone. And guess what? Daniel was like a lion waiting to pounce. So Omar was not having it today. But then there was a change in events. As the class was going to the science museum on the subway, all right, Daniel and Omar got left behind. They were lost. And guess what happened to the big tall bully guy? Guess what happened? He started to cry like a baby. Whoa, we're lost. We
Best
are
part. You
going
forgot the
to
best part. He didn't just cry
die.
like a baby, though.
Huh?
He didn't just cry like a baby, though.
Oh,
He
he
also
didn't just
peed
cry like a
himself.
baby. Guess what?
He
He
peed
peed
himself.
himself.
Yeah. I thought you loved that part
Yeah,
as well,
yeah,
man.
yeah,
He
yeah.
peed
He
himself too.
peed himself.
What a bully. He
Yeah.
cries and he pees himself.
Man, he was lost. He got scared. Which brings us to the grand finale.
The grand finale. All
Go
right,
ahead.
let's get this rolling. All right, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. All right, chapter 19. So now our boy Daniel, after talking really big and like a hot shot, now he's crying and he has a pants full of pee. So let's continue the story. I know we should have tried to find someone who worked at the station to help, but my thinking wasn't very straight at the time. It was kind of wobbly, and I was getting like a gazillion different ideas of what to do every second. That's a very noisy head, and don't forget, Daniel was still crying. A train rumbled onto the platform and onto the next page from the tunnel, and my instinct was to jump on. You see, instincts are funny. You hear about them with animals, like when sea turtles hatch and move toward the ocean without anybody telling them which way to go, or when baby kangaroos jump into their mommy kangaroo's pouch when they are born. I felt myself wanting to jump onto the train, although nobody had told me it was the right way to go. I took Daniel's hand, trying very hard not to think about when he just picked his nose earlier and stepped on. It was South Kensington Station we were supposed to be going to. I remembered Mrs. Hutchinson saying so, and I remembered that when I went to the museum with mom and dad, we had to walk quite a lot through the station to get out near where the museums were. Daniel and I found seats on the train. Do you know where to go? Sobbed Daniel. Yes, look at the map right here, I said, pointing towards the one that shows all the stops. See if you can find South Kensington on it. We looked very carefully. Marylebone Station came. We still searched the map, but South Kensington was nowhere on the brown line. My heart sank, and I said to Daniel, I think we have to change trains again. I love the peanut, but suddenly I wish that we went to more places on the train so I would know what I was doing. Let's tell someone we're lost, pleaded Daniel, still crying and smelling like pee. No, we're not lost, I said. I kind of knew we were, but I wanted to get us out the mess. Now that Daniel was all sniffly and full of pee, he's dependent on me. I wanted to be the hero. So we just have to get off this train, I said. Then we'll be fine. We got off at the next stop. It was Baker Street. Baker Street sounded very familiar. It sounded like home and good memories. I thought maybe it was another station that was close to museums, and that's why I remembered it. Daniel was like a big lump of Play-Doh that couldn't think. I had to do all the thinking, but it sort of felt okay. He wasn't being mean to me anymore, at least. I wondered whether our class knew we were missing by now. I imagined Mrs. Hutchinson's hair going wild with worry. I had never seen her really worried before, and I wondered what it looked like. We exited the station, crossed over at a crosswalk, and walked down a busy road with lots of cafes on it. There was a Sherlock Holmes museum. I don't know much about Sherlock, but my parents always watch a TV show about him, and that has Benedict Cumberbatch in it. Another thing I know about Benedict Cumberbatch is that he can't say the word penguin. I only know this because one time when I walked into the kitchen, my mom was watching a video about him and laughing so much that tears were falling from her eyes. The road started winding to the left, and as we turned the corner, something touched my shoulder from behind. I swung my head around, and what I saw made me scream like a hyena who was about to be eaten by a bigger, scarier creature for dinner.
Wow. All right. Chapter 20. It was the scariest thing I'd ever seen. It was terrifying and hairy, and it stank. It stank so bad. It was kind of like a man because it had a head and a body and arms and legs, but it wasn't a man. And it was dirty, so dirty. My brain told me it was a zombie. Daniel screamed too. We both ran down a long road. I looked over my shoulder. The zombie was still coming with its arms out, trying to grab us. We ran harder and harder. When I couldn't see him anymore, I stopped and I tried to catch my breath. Daniel, on the other hand, threw himself onto the sidewalk and started wailing like never before. I wasn't well trained in dealing with crying bullies or zombies. I took a deep breath and imagined H2O, the dragon, flying down to help us, swooping around to keep an eye out in case the zombie turned up again. And then I sat down next to Daniel on the sidewalk, even though there was loads of gross, dried up chewing gum on it. I told him it was gonna be okay. When I said that, I felt like a liar because I was scared too. And I didn't really know if it was going to be okay. But that's what grown-ups always say when someone is crying. So I said it. Grown-ups, what would they do right now? Daniel, what would your parents do if they were lost? Daniel wiped some snot from his nose with the back of his hand. They would look for the way on their phones. Right. We don't have phones. What would yours do if they were in trouble and were going to die like us? I had to try very hard not to laugh at how dramatic Daniel was being. He actually thought this was the end of the world. Well, the zombie thing was quite scary, but H2O didn't have to hold back, so I imagined him rolling on the floor laughing instead. Well, anytime there's a big problem, my parents always ask Allah. That's one thing they keep telling me a lot. To ask Allah for everything. They say it every day. Daniel sat up. There was something suddenly different about his face. I think it was hope. Actually, no, I forgot, I said sheepishly. Ask him, shouted Daniel for a moment. I thought he was going to become the bully Daniel again, but he just sat there waiting with big, hopeful eyes. I closed my eyes and I whispered a few words in English. I didn't know the exact Arabic prayer for being lost with a bully and being chased by a zombie, right? I don't think we've come across that dua as well, right, Mufti? The dua for being chased by a bully and being lost, being chased by a zombie while being lost with a bully. I think I missed that one, right?
Yeah, we haven't covered that in Sunday school yet.
Not yet. But my dad said that Allah knows all of the languages in the universe, so we can talk to him however we need to. All right. So, there you go. All right. Allah, I'm sorry I forgot to ask you before, but we're kind of lost and we need your help. We lost all our teachers and we don't know where they are. We don't even know where we are, actually. And also, there might be a zombie trying to catch us. I'm trying to look after Daniel, but he keeps crying a lot. Please, please, can you help us? I don't know how, but I guess you know. Thank you. I love you. I opened my eyes to find Daniel's face right next to mine. Well, did you ask him? Is he going to help us? Of course he will. Allah always helps. But do you think he heard you? You were whispering so quietly that I couldn't even hear you, and I'm right next to you. Yes, he did. He's God, I said in my well-duh voice. But then I realized I should be kinder and explained. God can hear everything, even whispers, and even what you're saying to yourself in your own head. Oh, okay, said Daniel. Then because Daniel still looked so frightened and sad, I said, don't worry, you'll get back home to your mom and dad, and so will I. Yeah, if they even notice I'm gone or if they even care, said Daniel. Of course they care. That's what parents do. Anyway, I think you're a bit hard to miss. I mean, if you weren't there, I would notice. Really? Definitely. Daniel seemed pleased to hear that for like zero point 0.8 seconds. Then his shoulders drooped again. Yes, but my parents, all they care about is my little sister Susie because she's always in the hospital. Is she? Is she going to be okay? I don't know, said Daniel. She's always sick and having operations. And he started wailing again as if something was hurting a whole lot. And I do care about her. I do. But what about me? I might as well not be there. I just get in the way when they need to look after her. Poor Daniel. I felt a little hump in my throat. And I stared at him because I didn't know what to say. So I just moved closer to him, even though he stank of pee. And I said, I don't know what I would do if that happened to me, Daniel. Daniel looked at me as if I had said something that really, really helped. But I had just said the truth because I didn't know what else to say. He sniffed really hard and wiped his eyes before looking up at me like he was waiting for me to say more. So I said, yeah, you must be a really strong person. I mean, like strong inside. Not strong like Batman. Although I think Batman is strong inside as well. Hey, Mufti Noman, I think Omar caught up with Batman too, right? He's all about the gadgets.
All about the gadgets,
all
man.
about the gadgets, right? So Daniel smiled a snotty smile. Is this the first time he's ever smiled at me? I thought. That felt really weird. Didn't he hate me? So what now? Do we just sit here? Asked Daniel. I don't think so. The zombie might find us. What then? Let's walk.
Chapter 21. So we got up and carried on walking the same way we'd been going before. Daniel was much calmer now. I was kind of proud of him and of myself, even though he did smell because of the pee in his pants. After we'd walked for a few minutes, I knew why this place was so familiar. Yes! I took Daniel's hand and started running. And there it was, the huge dome of the London Central Masjid. I love this masjid. This was where I had my first halal sweets. This was where a man had given me money just for being cute. This was where I had stood many times, sometimes with mom and sometimes with dad, and with hundreds of other people all praying at the same time. This place was safe. We ran and ran till we reached the big space outside the masjid, where I had tried to ride my scooter once, and I looked over my shoulder. Ah! The zombie was hot on her heels again. How did he do that? We pumped up the screaming even more and ran right inside the masjid. Masjids are usually quiet places, so all the commotion made people come out from all around and come up to us.
There was a man that was wearing... Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So people... All right. Out of style. Okay. Yeah. A man who was wearing out of style long things that go right down to the feet. I had one in white. My grandma bought the thobe for me from Mecca. The man had lots of wrinkles and lots of white hair. And he was using his hands to signal us to calm down. He was also saying something, but I couldn't hear him because we were still screaming. So I stopped. Then Daniel stopped. Then I told him everything. It was kind of weird. I felt like I could hear my own voice from far away, and it sounded really hysterical. I told him we had gotten lost and tried to find our way to the Science Museum, and then we'd gotten chased by a zombie. Then I realized it all sounded super crazy. So I quickly told him that we asked Allah for help, and we ended up here. The man smiled like he was very proud of us and like he knew all the secrets of the world. And where is this zombie, my child? He asked. Before I could look around and see where he was, Daniel started pointing and squealing, there he is, there he is. The man gently took my shoulder and made me look again. My dear son, he said. I wasn't really his son, but sometimes people in the masjid who don't know you love you like their own son. That is no zombie. That is a homeless man. And it looks as if he was trying to help you. I felt like a complete silly head because it was a homeless man and he wasn't chasing us. He had just noticed that we were kids all by ourselves and he actually cared enough to try to help. But we had run away from him. I felt pretty bad. I waved at the homeless man sheepingly, and he waved back and gave me a yellow-toothed grin. Somebody had sat him down with a cup of tea. Then the man in the thobe, whose name was Muhammad, sat us down and called our school. A younger man in jeans and a t-shirt that said "Boom" came over and gave us some juice and halal sweets. Oh yeah. This made Daniel's day. It made mine too. And I felt pretty good at this point. I felt like the hero I was trying to be. And the school was kind of frantic too. They had already called, and the police as well. Apparently, everyone had been worrying nonstop, especially poor Charlie. And both Daniel's parents and mine had been told. A policeman and a policewoman showed up about 10 minutes later to talk to us. We also got to talk to Eddie, the homeless, not so zombie man. He was very smiley, even though he doesn't own many clothes or have a house to live in. I would have been able to catch up with you if it wasn't for my bad knee, said Eddie. And he laughed. As soon as he spoke, I liked him because he had an accent from up north that sounded just like Reza's. We told him we were sorry for running away from him and offered him some of our sweets. He liked the red ones the best, just like everyone else I know. Next, our parents turned up. First mine, and then Daniel's. My mom held on to me and cried and cried and cried, and my dad held on to her. Everyone decided that it was best that we didn't go to the Wonder Lab or the museum, as we had enough adventures for the day. Daniel and I didn't really mind. I wondered if he just wanted to stay near his mom like I did. Then Dad said, "Come on, Trouble, let's get you home." And he heaved me onto his shoulder just to make me laugh.
All right. Chapter 22. When everything had settled down that evening, Charlie's mom rang my phone and asked if she could bring Charlie over to see me because he was a panicky mess and wanted to make sure I was okay with his own eyes. So Charlie came over and we ate cookies, chocolate milk. I told him all about the zombie thing and about Daniel peeing himself. Then after we finished almost peeing ourselves with laughter, I sat up straight and told Charlie that I felt bad for laughing because Daniel wasn't too bad at all. Now that I had gotten to know him a bit, "Okay," said Charlie, but he didn't seem too sure. So I said, "You'll see, Scout's honor," and I saluted at him. I wasn't a scout, and Charlie just burst out in laughing like, "Oh my God, you're trying to say Daniel's okay?" But I think he believed me. A couple of days later, my parents invited Daniel and his family to our house for iftar. They all wanted to discuss every detail of that crazy day of being lost on the underground. Mr. and Mrs. Green seemed nice. I remember what Daniel had said about feeling like he was just in the way home. He was just in the way at home. But they were paying him lots of attention now. His dad kept on ruffling his hair and his mom kept touching his shoulder like she wanted to check he was still there. I had a feeling that was why they'd left his sister Susie with her aunt for this visit, so Daniel could be their star. They told mom and dad that they were very grateful to the mosque for helping us. Then Daniel told my parents all about how I asked Allah for help, and it was only after that we were saved. So it must have been Allah that did it. Of course, I had already told them my version of the story, but they were extra proud to hear it from Daniel. Daniel's parents wanted to go to the mosque to thank them again personally. So we had the idea that they should come with us on Eid day and do it then. Because that's the best day to find parking at the masjid, right, Noman? On Eid day, right?
Right.
Now, everything was looking really good. I could hardly believe that in just a few days, Daniel had gone from being the person I liked least of all to being my friend. He was trying to be Charlie's friend too, which was a bit harder because they're so different from each other. But I had been an accidental magnet again and pulled them together, and I was completely super sure they'd get along. Charlie and I had even asked Daniel to play soccer with us on the playground because we realized that no one had even asked him before. It turned out that he was better than anyone in the whole class at being goalie. But there was still one thing that was bothering me, so I blurted it out. Will our family be kicked out from the country? The air in the room suddenly got very thick, like we were on a different planet with less oxygen or something. Everyone looked very awkward. And since Mariam always giggles in awkward situations, she put her hand over her mouth, but I could still see her shoulders shaking. And so could Isa, because he pointed at her with his cheeky grin. Where did you get an idea like that? Said Dad. I suddenly realized that I had gotten it from Daniel, but Daniel would be in trouble if I said anything. I looked at him really quickly and I looked away. Then I said, yeah, I heard it from somewhere, and I even asked Raza, and he said that, yeah, we're going to just have to go to live in Pakistan. Dad laughed, but Mom nudged him because she could see that I was serious. Then she smiled politely at the Greens, who looked really uncomfortable. Daniel was color matching his skin with the tomatoes on the plate. I wondered if he could feel it when he went red. Dad explained that was never going to happen, beta, and kids make up things all the time. He said that I should always talk to an adult to get the facts right when I hear something like that. Then Daniel blurted out, okay, it was me, okay? And I'm sorry, Omar. Everyone's heads turned to Daniel really fast. Daniel's head hung towards the floor. Well, I heard my cousin Brian saying it, so I just said it to Omar to make him feel bad because I didn't think he'd want to be my friend, but I'm sorry now anyway. Mrs. Green's face was doing the color matching thing with the tomatoes now as well. And Mr. Green was saying, oh, Daniel, and he was burying his face in his hands. And then Mrs. Green was saying, oh, I'm so sorry. And Daniel was saying, I'm so sorry. And Dad was saying, hey, it's okay. Right? Mufti Nawan, it's okay.
It's okay.
Kids will be kids. And Mom was looking from one person's face to another's, and suddenly they all went quiet and looked at me. Omar, I am very proud that you're Daniel's friend, and I wouldn't want you going anywhere, Mr. Green said. Whew, I thought. Now everything's okay. I imagined H2O peeking in through the window. He was tiny now because I didn't need a huge dragon to make me feel better anymore. He winked at me, waved his tail before flying back into the clouds. Last and final chapter.
All right, chapter 23. It was one of the best days of the year, Eid, and we were going to spend this one with Mrs. Rogers and the Greens. The night before, I had stood at my window trying to spot the moon. Really hoping that it would be Eid. The moon tells us when Ramadan is over because it's a new month in the Islamic calendar. If the new moon can't be seen, it's basically not Eid for another day. When that happens, it's so annoying. The masjid is always very busy on Eid day. Even people who don't normally go to the masjid go to pray Eid Salah. So it is absolutely packed. We sat on the carpet, waiting for the prayers to start and watching the people pour in. I like how every single person is so different, different shapes, different sizes, even for adults. Like fully grown adults can be really tall or quite short. And you can get really tall, thin ones who reminded me of the BFG, and short, large ones, and all the sizes in between. Then all the different types of faces and all the shades of color. The masjid is great because you get all types of different people all in one place. And you're usually sitting still for a very long while. So it's the perfect place to people watch. One thing I've figured out is that some people have the kind of faces that seem quite perfect. They have a straight nose, maybe good skin, nice lips, but they still don't look nice. Like, I wouldn't want to be stuck in an elevator with them. And they definitely don't smile a lot. Then there are other faces that might
have
have
skin.
skin that's a bit bad. Some other faces that might not have the most perfect skin, and maybe their nose isn't the prettiest, or their beard grows in funny directions, but they look really nice and they smile loads. I've thought about it a lot, and I think it's all to do with what's happening inside people. If they're always having nice thoughts and are good and kind people, they always look lovely, no matter what. And if they're awful people with rotten thoughts, right? And they say bad things and they'll look like red tomatoes. No, they'll look horrible. Daniel had been smiling a lot more since we got lost together. And his face was definitely looking a lot nicer, much nicer. While the imam led the prayers, the Greens watched from the back. Afterward, they said it was absolutely beautiful, like nothing they've ever seen before. Next, we were all going to go to our home for Eid Fest and presents. That's the best part of Eid, by the way. We had presents from Daniel and his family too.
Oh,
Even
wow.
Judy, who had joined us this time. Daniel rode with me in the Peanut, and on the way, he pulled out a little wrapped gift from his jacket pocket and grinned at me. It's another Eid present, but it's for Charlie. It's a Batman key ring. Do you think he'll like it? Super definitely, man. I grinned back. The feast covered every single centimeter of our dining table, which we call the Eid table on Eid. We always put piles and piles of things on the Eid table because we have lots of friends and family to visit. This year, there was chocolate brownies. Yum, yum, yum. Maria might be super annoying most of the time, but she's really good at making brownies. So there's your trade-off. Annoying, but great brownies. I sneak one for myself and one for Daniel before Isa went ahead and licked them all, like he always does. Quick, eat it before anyone else comes in. I laughed out loud. Daniel gobbled his so fast, he got bits of brownie all over his teeth. Mumbled Daniel, still with his mouth full. Your teeth are so brown. I snorted.
Hey, no. You gotta do that. You gotta do that while you're snorting, man. Go ahead.
Yeah. So you said you were gonna do Daniel. I was gonna do Omar. Daniel started laughing. He said, "So are yours, man." Bunch of brown teeth boys.
Oh man, mashallah, man. So that brings Planet Omar to an end. And before we get into some of the lessons and whatnot, I wanted to share a few pictures that we've gotten from our audience over here of them enjoying enjoying story time. All right. So we have over here, we have siblings over here who are watching on their screen, right? Watching us, watching you
Yeah.
making the snorting noises, right? And over here, all right, look at that. We got waffles with whipped cream, little fresh strawberry going on, and eggs.
That looks like a 5-star breakfast right there. What you think,
Yeah,
Jeffrey?
that looks like that looks like a breakfast to have when you're watching story time.
Oh
Right
yes,
there.
especially IA story time. Right.
So now, Mufti Nomad, I was really thinking about, when I was reading this story that, man, Daniel did really turn around. I mean, he went from being the big ugly bully to being the soft little kid who peed his pants,
Yeah. And on
right?
top of that, at the end, what did he say? He's like, I just didn't think he was being mean to Omar and all the other people, thinking that nobody wanted to be his friend. So at the end, he ended up being a really big softie. he was all big and tough. And then after he peed himself, I think that's when he changed. He became a nice big old softie. And look at how he totally transformed.
And we learn a great lesson for our audience, for our kids and our young viewers and parents alike. We learn and understand the value and benefit of good character, right?
Mm,
Imagine if Omar was not good with Daniel,
mm,
right?
mm.
Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put them in a situation where they got lost. Okay. Now, as children, and we make fun of Daniel peeing his pants because it's a book and whatnot, but any child getting lost is a very serious situation, right?
It's
Especially
tough,
if you
but
don't have a phone, right?
yeah.
Now, but we learn a few things from here. One thing that we learn is how the parents, right? They taught Omar the importance of asking Allah for help, right? So you look for directions, you ask other people for help, but don't forget to ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for help. And you also understand the importance of the dua to read when you're getting chased by a zombie and when you're lost with a bully, right? You always ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for help. When you're lost, you ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to guide you. And what happened? They turned a corner and the masjid's right there, right? It's like, subhanallah, you get that type of help. Another thing that we learn from this is the benefit of having good character. Imagine how many months and years Omar would have to deal with Daniel, right? And all of his bullying and all of his anger and all of these other issues, right? When in reality, when we talk about Daniel, what was the reason Daniel was so harsh with Omar and Charlie? What was the reason that they mentioned in the story? That he had a sick sister at home, and
Mm.
he wasn't getting the attention that he needed at home, and so because of this, it caused him to be harsh. So when you show people kindness, when you show people love and affection, people will eventually turn around. I want to show, we have some more pictures coming in from our audience over here. Moving on from, let's see, waffles with whip. There you go. Is it going to stay in here? All right. So we have, oh, look at that. Someone is doing i'tikaf at home. You see that?
Yeah, man. We
And,
made it. We're one of the pillars of Hajj now.
and over here we have, oh, wow, look at that. Someone's got a really nice setup. MashaAllah. Right?
I gotta take
And
some tips, man.
yeah, mashallah, man. So it's good to see our young audience, tuning in and paying attention and learning, learning from this is what we do. We learn from these stories about having good character, being nice with your neighbors, reaching out to people. Many times people will treat us differently, they'll look at us differently. In our Sunday school, in the Misbah program tomorrow, we are having a panel discussion about bullying at school, about Islamophobia. We had a survey and we asked all 50 of the students in our Misbah program anonymously about their experiences at school. And we're going to talk about that. And this is one thing
Yeah.
that we learned from this book as well, that kindness goes a long way. That doesn't mean you have to be a pushover, right, Mufti?
Absolutely, right. And that's what we talked about last week in our Misbah program. We have the reason why Allah gives us, like the Prophet ﷺ and all these different prophets, is because kindness is a good quality. Being kind to people. I don't think anyone will say that kindness is a bad thing. You shouldn't be kind to people. But if not channeled correctly, and if you're overly kind, that can sometimes be a problem as well. So, yeah, absolutely. Kindness, even though great quality, we have the Prophet ﷺ to tell us in which cases do we apply in which cases. But yeah, definitely don't ever be a pushover. Like if there's something like Daniel at school, then you can definitely take that conversation to someone older, someone who you trust, someone who you're okay with, instead of keeping it inside the whole time. And I just love, man, Sheikh G, because I have a very similar kind of like personal story with this whole Daniel and Umar little thing, where like there's just a total 180, man, solely on the base of how Daniel was treated. He came around. Had Umar started retaliating and Umar started to be, made sure that he took his revenge on Daniel, I don't think they would ever be friends. I don't think he would ever have his Eid gift. I don't think they'd ever spend Eid together. Their families would never care, So it's really how you treat someone. Don't ever be a pushover, but always how you treat someone goes a really, really long way. That person can totally end up changing, if you continue being the best that you can to them.
So, folks, Jazakumullah khair. And, this brings our Planet Omar. Now, this is not the only book. This is a series of books called Planet Omar, The Accidental Trouble Magnet. In closing, I just want to take a few minutes to recognize the authors, not just of the Planet Omar book, but all of the books that we have started reading to y'all, from Little Malcolm Little, Yan's Hajj. It's very important that we support Muslim, all of the authors of any books that we read, especially the Muslim authors of the Islamic books that we read over here. We don't go at this program. We don't go fishing for free PDFs. All of the electronic books that are featured in our Storytime Storytime have all been purchased. And we encourage you to do the same as well. If you check in the comment section, I have put the link for Amazon and also directly from the publisher. It's very important for us to support these authors and illustrators so that they can continue to comfortably pump out more and more books for us to benefit from. So, folks, this is myself signing off along with Mufti Nu'man. Thank you very much for joining us in this story time. And till next time, till the next time you see us in your living room, take care of yourselves, take care of your souls, and take care of others, folks. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu.
Wa alaikum assalam wa